I've been extensively testing the photo and video capabilities of the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and in my review I will share my findings and what you as a serious photographer and videographer can expect. To start, the iPhone 15 Pro Max features a convenient action button that you can program to easily access one of various features. I think most people will be interested in assigning the action button to launching the camera app, and what's great is that you can even indicate which camera mode should come on. Now, a very incredible new feature of the iPhone is that you can enable the camera app to capture the entire depth map of a scene. This means that even after you capture a regular photo and the camera detects a person, for example, you can change and edit the aperture setting and make the photo have a different depth of field and even focus. If the F for aperture doesn't appear in your camera app, simply click on your subject to focus on and the F will appear. In other words, with this game-changing feature, you don't have to think as much about the camera settings, you just have to mainly focus on framing your subject properly. Given how incredible this feature is, I think every smartphone camera moving forward should have such a feature. And I think it's impressive how the iPhone captures the entire depth map into the photo file, but yet the photo files don't really take up that much storage. Now, Apple advertises the iPhone 15 Pro as having 7 Pro lenses in your pocket, and the way they get to 7 lenses from 3 actual physical lenses is as follows. There is the 12 megapixel ultra-wide 13mm equivalent f2.2 lens that not only serves as your ultra-wide lens, but also as your macro lens. The 48 megapixel main 24mm equivalent f1.78 lens can also crop and mimic 28mm, 35mm, and a 2x 48mm lens, and the image quality remains great at these focal lengths despite the crop. And finally, on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the telephoto lens is a x5 12 megapixel 120mm equivalent f2.8 lens. And this is how we get to the 7 Pro lenses as Apple describes them. Capturing macro shots with the iPhone is a pleasure, given how close you can get to your subject, as you can practically give your subject a smooch. The overall colors and the handling of contrast, details, and texture are incredible. You can shoot portraits with x1, x2, and x5 zoom, and the skin tones turn out exceptional, and so does the exposure of the face. The x5 zoom creates a very professional and charming look due to the compression. Now, what do you think of how the iPhone handles retouching and level of detail on the face? The image quality that is produced by all 3 lenses and the different focal length is simply great, as you would expect from Apple's new smartphone. And while the maximum zoom is impressive, it does however not compete with the competition. In order to capture the full 48 megapixels, you simply need to enable ProRaw and the camera settings, and at x1 24mm focal length, you can capture the full resolution. The dynamic range of the iPhone 15 Pro Max is stunning, and when you capture a 48 megapixel 10-bit ProRAW image, you will have a lot of flexibility when editing. However, in my comparison with the Nikon D810, I was able to conclude that the smartphone is yet to be able to compete with a full-frame camera when it comes to dynamic range. The way that the iPhone 15 produces such excellent image quality is that its new photonic engine captures multiple shots of a scene that are optimized for different things like noise, color, and light, and then compresses those into a default 24 megapixel shot. When it comes to long exposure and night photography, the iPhone 15 can capture great photos. And while it is recommended to use a tripod when you are exposing your shot for several seconds, it is worth noting that the vibration reduction of the iPhone is quite impressive when you take long exposure shots handheld. Every year smartphones improve when it comes to low-light performance, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max is no exception. And while the low-light performance of the iPhone's main camera is not bad at all, it's important to understand that the camera will automatically switch its 24 megapixel image output to a 12 megapixel output to allow for better noise control. But this lower resolution will result in a loss of very fine detail. The selfie or front camera features a 12 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f1.9. When sufficient lighting is available, the selfie camera can capture great quality images and a great level of detail. However, when faced with low light situations, the iPhone selfie camera has an average low light performance in my opinion, and results in significant noise levels and an overall loss in image quality. I suggest the iPhone is due for a selfie camera hardware upgrade, so I hope the next iPhone will receive one. It's time we address what is arguably the iPhone's strongest ability, which is to capture high quality video. Apple really focused on the video capabilities of the new iPhone in their promotional video, and there is a reason why the iPhone has been so popular for video professionals. So let's take a closer look. The iPhone 15 Pro Max can capture up to 4K 60 frames per second in 10 bits HDR, including Dolby Vision. The cinematic mode that applies a beautiful depth of field effect can record up to 4K and 30 frames per second. And when enabling the action mode, you can capture up to 2.8K 60 frames per second, and the stabilization is simply fantastic. Now, the ability to capture ProRes Log video at 4K 60 frames per second and also the possibility to save footage on an external SSD makes the iPhone 15 Pro Max a no-brainer for serious professional videographers. Since I have great appreciation for time-lapse photography, I will quickly comment that in the time-lapse mode, other than exposure control, the time-lapse mode doesn't really give you too much control, but I think it's great that you can plug in your iPhone 15 into a power source and capture a time-lapse for as long as you want. I think the time-lapse video quality is acceptable for social media, so I feel more and more comfortable using my smartphone for capturing a time-lapse when I travel. And last but not least, the Slo-Mo feature of the iPhone allows you to capture 1080p with up to 240 frames per second, which I guess is fine. But given the video capabilities of this beast of a smartphone, I would have not expected the Slo-Mo resolution to be limited to only 1080p. It's been an absolute pleasure adding the iPhone 15 Pro Max to my Galaxy S23 Ultra. When new technology is released, the question often lingers whether we should or should not make the purchase. I think if someone has an iPhone 14, the iPhone 15 would offer upgrades, but I'm not sure if the upgrades would be worth upgrading. But if you have a smartphone that is at least a few years old and you need a device that can capture high quality photos and videos, you may want to consider the iPhone 15 Pro Max, as it is arguably among the top best smartphones on the market today. Oh hey, I guess you're still hanging out. Thank you so much for watching my first smartphone review of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Truthfully, I could not believe how many days and days and hours it took to create a smartphone review. So, if my video was helpful to you, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video, it would mean a lot. Until next time.